President Bola Tinubu and his United Arab Emirates UAE counterpart, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, met in Abu Dhabi yesterday and sealed a historic agreement which resulted in the immediate cessation of a visa ban placed on Nigerian travelers by the UAE authorities. By the agreement, both Etihad Airlines and Emirates Airlines were to resume flights into and out of Nigeria without delay. These were disclosed in a statement by Tinubu spokesperson Ajuri Ngelale. But in a statement on its website on the diplomatic meeting, Emirates News Agency, UAE's official news agency, did not mention anything about the lifting of visa ban on Nigerians as well as flight resumption. The agency only noted that the UAE president and Tinubu explored opportunities for further bilateral collaboration in areas that served both countries' sustainable economic growth, including the economic development, energy, and climate action fields. UAE had in October 2023 banned nationals of some 20 African countries, that's October 2021, including Nigeria, from entering its city, Dubai. In a notice issued to trade partners, including travel agents, the UAE authorities had directed that all applications should be rejected from Nigeria and the aforementioned countries. All right. Rufai, it seemed like some companies had a reaction video ready for this particular announcement. And so we saw quite a reaction following the spokesman, that's Mr. Ajuri Ngelale's statement yesterday, but also a number of, shall I say, responses?
Okay, so number of reaction and responses. But at first, I'd like to say kudos to President Tinubu. You know why? Because this was where President Buhari failed. When this happened, President Buhari did not take enough action. In fact, there was a conversation between him and the UAE head where he gave some commiserations when the UAE head was bereaved. But there was no push. And we allowed that thing linger for a while. So kudos to President Tinubu doing what President Buhari didn't do. But let's go back to brass tacks. The Emirati authorities on their website didn't say anything about a visa ban. Our authorities, our presidency here, said there's been lifting of the visa ban, which a lot of Nigerians want, because UAE has now become a great place to travel for tourism and all of that. And a little dial back, we all remember how all of this started. Over COVID-19, rapid antigen tests. Then there was a brickbat about BASA agreements, back and forth. Then there was also the case of some Nigerians that were caught on camera, cultism activities, fighting on the streets of UAE, that the UAE authorities and the Emirati authorities was asking, what does cultism mean? And we couldn't announce that. And we couldn't explain that. And there was also the case of, a restriction on those that are less than 40 years of age to be able to come in. But those over 40 could have a family, tourist, a family visa arrangement with their families. And then there was a blanket ban, not just only on Nigeria and a couple of other African countries. So this is just a little bit of a timeline. So if our authorities say that the ban has been lifted, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. So please go out there, go and apply for a UAE visa. If they say the ban has been lifted with immediate effect. And whatever you see, you come back and we report in the media, pure and simple. I will have gone ahead to apply, but I don't have any business in the UAE currently, So go out there, apply. But you can't take away the fact that there's been solid conversations between Nigeria and the UAE. And apart from this visa ban, there's been more talk. And the one that really excites me the most is about Forex, where there's been a talk about a certain Forex arrangement between the UAE and Nigeria to be able to show up our Forex base, because this is always the argument we've constantly made here, that Nigeria needs more money to be able to show off its Forex base and look for how it can get more Forex, hence the Afrexim deal. We're still waiting to get that inflow coming so that we can actually provide some liquidity in the market and defend our currency, because only recently the FTSE downgraded us because of our Forex problems. So, if we can have that going on. Also, there's been talk about agriculture, great agricultural potential across board that the UAE and Nigeria can synergize on. Also, climate change. And the UAE has been making a lot of incursions into the African continent. In fact, they were the largest donors to the recently concluded climate change conference in Kenya. Also, defense partnership and the like. So the UAE is ready to spend, and it's been a good outing. And give it to him. President Tinubu, made all the right noises there. said all the right things. But this contentious issue as regards the Emirati authorities not reporting about the visa ban lifting, and the Nigerian authorities reporting about that, the taste of the pudding is in the eating. Go out there, apply for it. And if anything you face as regards the visa process, then you come back and you report it. I think that just pretty much settles it.
All right.
Okay, the devil is in the details, as they say. President Tinubu, after getting investment pledges in New Delhi, India, and having high-profile meetings, photo opportunities in New Delhi on the sidelines of the G20 summit, decided to stop over in Abu Dhabi on his way home to sort out existing diplomatic issues between the United Arab Emirates and Nigeria. And this morning, we're told that some of the agreements reached, the officials of both countries will come together to begin to take proactive steps to make sure that, those agreements, otherwise called historic, are actuated. And what are those agreements? The United Arab Emirates agreeing to lift visa ban on Nigerians, and also the Emirates Airlines, the official airline of the UAE, which 10 months ago decided to stop flights in and out of Nigeria, will now resume flights. You will recall that at the time, the Etihad Airlines, out of solidarity with Emirates Airlines, decided also to join Emirates Airlines. But all of that, we're told, is going to be resolved. As regards visa ban, it was 20 African countries that were, given that visa ban. Ghana, Nigeria inclusive, Burundi, Republic of Benin, Uganda, generally 20 countries. But the peculiar problem that Nigeria had was that Nigerians were accused of abusing, consular, guidelines of the United Arab Emirates. The other issue that led to Emirates stopping its flights into Nigeria had to do with forex, repatriation. All the airlines at the time, if you recall, said, they couldn't repatriate up to about $245 million. In the case of Emirates, it was $85 million. But at the end of the day, the CBN of Nigeria, the Central Bank of Nigeria, tried to meet those foreign airlines halfway. But there were still issues. The third issue was when the UAE, also in 2021, insisted that Nigerians coming into the United Arab Emirates must go through rapid antigen tests, which Nigeria protested about. But now, this is a good development. It's a boost to diplomatic relations between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates. But more importantly, who are the people going to benefit from this? One, those Nigerians who like to go to Dubai, for whom Dubai has become a destination for tourism, for medical tourism especially, and for shopping, for holidays. The other people that will also benefit from this are those Nigerians living in the United Arab Emirates who have been having issues with work permits. As Abike Dabiri-Irewa, the head of the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, pointed out, NIDCOM, that she said she has received calls from Nigerians out there who have been so excited that this matter has now been resolved. Number three, President Tinubu can well claim, victory to say, well, this is a major foreign policy achievement for him. After all, in February 2023, that is the specific date, President Buhari, as it then was, had called this same, Emir of Abu Dhabi and President of the United Arab Emirates to address the same issue when he was commiserating with him over the death of his mother-in-law. But nothing came out of it. The federal government at the time tried everything possible. They didn't succeed. That's why it's significant that President Tinubu has been able, to succeed now. Maybe since February, there have been backroom, negotiations between Nigeria and United Arab Emirates, and President Tinubu just happened maybe to have shown up at the right time. However, there are other issues. As I've argued in extenso in my back page column in this day newspaper today, that there are other issues that are important that President Tinubu needs to pay attention to. All of this is within the purview of the aviation sector. And my question, which I raised in that back page essay today, is that whose interest is being served? Who is going to benefit more from it? Apart from the categories of persons I have identified, the holiday makers, the medical tourists, and Nigerians living in the United Arab Emirates, how do we gain in terms of our aviation sector? And very quickly, I would like to identify some of the issues that I raised in that piece today. Number one, you will recall that when the foreign airlines said they couldn't repatriate up to about $250 million, and the CBN intervened, airline operators of Nigeria raised issues that Nigeria should be more interested in the concerns of domestic airlines. And in the BASA agreement, the foreign airlines argued that under the BASA agreement, bilateral air services agreement, they were required to, be allowed to repatriate their funds. The airline operators said these foreign airlines were being given preferential treatment to the extent that they get their forex from the I&E window. Why would the foreign airlines not also go to the I&E window? That question still remains. And the president of Nigeria and his team will have to address it. The second point is about frequency. At the time, the NCAA, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, had to stop Emirates Airlines on the basis of reciprocity, because Nigeria at the time had granted Emirates Airlines 21 frequencies to Nigeria, 14 to the Abuja airport, 7 to the Lagos airport, whereas a Nigerian airline, Air Peace, was trying to get 3 frequencies to the United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates authorities said Air Peace could only get 1. All efforts to get up to 3 frequencies failed. Now, these foreign airlines, they are on all the routes. They are on London route, Virgin Atlantic, British Airways. Where is the reciprocity there? Where is the interest of our own people? 2, there are other issues that I have raised this morning in my essay in this day newspaper. There's also the issue of the aviation sector. 2 major airlines. Those airlines that are under receivership. Arik Air since 2017, and also Aero Contractors with AMCON. I raised a lot of issues about the Assets Management Company of Nigeria today. The AMCON seems to have created more problem in the aviation sector than the overall objective of ensuring financial stability and addressing the challenge of non-performing loans. Okay? President Tinubu has to look at that. The third issue is, he has renamed the ministry. It's now Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development. And Festus Keyamo, showed up at the Murtala Mohammed Airport and said, we have to move from one terminal to the other. But that in itself has created problems. A classical example of acting before thinking. People who travel into Nigeria now, they have to be bus-driven from one part of the terminal to another part of the terminal. And it's creating a lot of nightmare for travelers. If you pass through that airport, sometimes it could take you up to 5 hours if you have traveled recently to even gain access to your luggage or to pass through immigration to be able to leave the airport. Because it's the same buses they use to carry passengers that they also send back to go and carry luggage. So nobody is thinking. And I argue that, look, all this obsession with cosmetics will not do. Because every Minister of Aviation comes and says he is renovating. The same renovation will collapse within 6 months. So, to summarize, there are more fundamental issues in the aviation sector. Whatever President Tinubu does in the aviation sector should be, followed up with essentially the national interest. Let this not be that, is the United Arab Emirates that will benefit more. It should be about taking a holistic view at that aviation sector and putting Nigeria first beyond all the photo opportunities. And it's good to hear that this morning, the officials on both sides are already talking to see how this, can be effectively actualized. So the people who are jubilating that they will now be able to go to Dubai. The reason they go to Dubai, they should remember, is because Dubai was created, into a major destination because of leadership and vision. Everybody wants to go to Dubai. You ask for people, they say he's in Dubai. He has gone to Dubai. is because some people work very hard to turn that desert into a major destination for the international community. That is the major lesson. That is the major takeaway for Nigeria in all of these matters. We expect President Tinubu to come back. I'm sure the sycophants who are going to receive him at the airport, they are already getting ready, to celebrate. But that's beside the point.
Well, there are many things to celebrate, obviously, and I think that this is quite deliberate in terms of that triumphant entry into Nigeria following the investment pledges, and now what a number of Nigerians had taken on to, several spaces and platforms to express pleasure at the fact that, we now enjoy the relationship with Dubai, which is open to Nigerian tourists and business owners. And this morning, the meeting that has been talked about has in attendance officials from both sides. So we have the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo. We also have officials of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, as well as the officials from the other side, the Emirates, and they're going to be actioning agreement. And this is what had been shared and opined by a number of people yesterday, that it is in the details. It's not just the announcement that we're interested in, is the fine details of the announcement. Number one, how is this going to work? The president announced that with immediate effect, Etihad and Emirates will resume flights into Nigeria. How about the air peace arrangement? Is it reciprocated? What does reciprocity look like? As Dr. Bati had highlighted, with the bilateral agreement, we should enjoy at least equal relationships or mutually benefiting relationships for airlines that operate in the United Arab Emirates and airlines that operate here in Nigeria. Unfortunately, in the last dispensation, if I could call it that way, this wasn't the case. And it often seems that when it comes to foreign policies, sometimes we go in bargaining and coming out to the shorter end of the stick, almost seeing it as a privilege and an opportunity to be accepted by the world outside. And no other person will defend a nation than its own citizens. And as has been often said, the chief ambassador of Nigeria is the president. And so when we go to the negotiation table, Nigeria should be at the forefront. We're going in there putting Nigeria first and defending the interest of Nigeria, not the interest of the other party. And so we hope that this morning's conversation will reflect that. So whilst it's for tourist organizations who had taken on to some of them in their social media platforms to express pleasure at the fact that they can now open to their customers, also we must mention the effect of Nigerians living in Dubai. Businesses of Nigerians living in Dubai had suffered, especially businesses that cater to the international community or Nigerians who visit. So, for instance, restaurants owned by Nigerians had suffered. So there had been implications for not just Nigerians living here at home, but Nigerians living in diaspora. So it's music to the ears of a lot of people, not just for tourism, but also business owners whose businesses had suffered in the last few months. And so with expectations from the outcome of that meeting, people had asked, will the visa arrangement still remain the same in terms of getting a visa? In the past, it was e-visas, and within a matter of days, you'd get your visas. What would be the conditions of gaining visas? Already, some fake news had started to spread yesterday with some people putting some, ridiculous amounts of money in terms of how much it would take. What would be the conditions of Nigerians gaining visas? As Rufai had mentioned, at some point, it was that if you were over 40, you'd have access to visas. So those are the finer details before we begin to rejoice. And then what would be the arrangement for Air Peace? Would they be flying only to Sharjah? Thankfully, we have the CEO of Air Peace coming in this morning, so perhaps he'll be able to shed more light from his own standpoint, representing private operators in Nigeria, and also perhaps expectations from the Nigerian government as to the kind of conversations to be having or negotiations to be having this morning with Abu Dhabi. Finally, I would mention, with regards to the statement released on the UAE official website, it is important to note that it also perhaps speaks to whose side is more excited or whose side feels that they are better at an advantage. In the past, I've heard things like, Nigeria has we don't have significant impact in terms of the economy, and so they can shut their borders to us for a long time and not blink. That's actually not very true, because Nigeria does have some form of impact. Small businesses in Dubai, not just owned by Nigerians, also have been affected. I remember that when we went to Dubai earlier this year, the Department of Economy had said that the gold souk had reported back to them that the number of people who had come for that conference made significant impact even in their market. So we must never underestimate the power in our numbers, the strength of our nation, and underplay it when we come to the negotiation table. Both parties benefit, and it must reflect at the end of the day. We move on to our next story now. Nigeria is still reeling from the news of the passing of accounting icon Chief Akintola Williams this Monday, aged 104, with tributes pouring in. This report looks at the life of Nigeria's foremost chartered accountant and his love for the arts, culture, and music. We'll just quickly take that video very shortly, and then we will come back to talking about the life of the doyen, the man who is regarded as the doyen of accounting in Nigeria. Rufai.
I mean, you can't beat Akintola Williams. He's hedged himself, in history, and I got a chance to meet him a couple of times. I met him last couple of months ago at the ripe age of 103 then. And he was just seated, drinking his wine, and having conversations.
He drank wine till he was 103.
Yeah, he was just seated there, drinking his wine and having great conversations about, our country and inspiring the young people. He's a man that, when you describe him only in the accountancy field, he's more than that. He was in the arts. He did a lot for arts and conservation. Muson, the Musical Society of Nigeria, did a lot for music advancement in Nigeria, did a lot for conservation, with the Nigeria Conservation Foundation, did a lot across board, did a lot. He was a champion of Africa. Men like this only come in one lifetime. And his family in general, they've got two great people. His younger brother, Timidilo, popular Rotimi Williams, did a lot in the judiciary space in Nigeria. He did a lot in accountancy. Pretty much started his accounting firm in the 50s, 1952, set up his first company, and then he constantly continued to grow. The company iterated and went through a lot of partnership. Akintola & Co. Akintola partnered with Deloitte and all of that. And he's lived a very impactful life. A lot of people fail to realize that he retired at the age in 1983. So he retired over 40 years ago, but the impact post-retirement has been immense in the life of everybody that he touched. It's just amazing what he did and what he represents for Nigeria. ICANN, has its history, back to this great man. Nigerian Stock Exchange has its history back to this great man. Across the African continent, anything accountancy dates back to this man. He was born in 1919. I proudly and boldly say he lived, he saw, he conquered, veni vidi vici, and he's done it all. And I pray that, the family he's left behind, the likes of Uncle Shani's of this world and other people out there, I pray that God will continue to keep them and live with the family. And in fact, this man has touched so many people.
All right, so thank you so much, Rufai, and thanks for bringing a personal side to him, having met with him and had conversations. We have that report now. When we come back, Dr. Batsi and myself will share our thoughts on the great man that is Mr. Akintola Williams.
Akintola Williams, fondly called the father of accountancy in Africa, has finally bowed out of the scene, aged 104, after a long and illustrious career with outstanding honors from Nigeria and Britain. Born in Lagos on August 9, 1919, Williams was the first chartered accountant in Nigeria and is renowned for having played a part in founding the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN. The doyen of accountancy, who is the older brother of late legal icon Chief Rotimi Williams, acquired his education for the most part in Lagos in the 1930s to sometime in 1944, following which he acquired a Bachelor of Commerce in 1946 at the University of London and later qualified as a chartered accountant in England in 1949. Chief Akintola Williams founded an accounting firm in 1952 that later grew organically and through mergers to become the largest professional services firm in Nigeria by 2004, giving further credence to how massive his contribution to the accounting profession on the African continent was. Apart from being a founding member and first president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, he played a crucial role in ensuring stability and the Nigerian Stock Exchange, an organization he participated in founding. He indeed played a key role in the accounting profession and the larger economy. But beyond accountancy, Chief Akintola Williams, in his latter years, was noted for his promotion of arts, culture and music through the Musical Society of Nigeria, with the Akintola Williams Botanical Garden at Nigerian Conservation Foundation headquarters in Lagos named in his honor. Chief Akintola Williams, an accounting icon, passed away in his Lagos home on Monday, 11th September. Godfrey Eshemoge, Arise News.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. Dr. Abati.
Well, it is most appropriate that many of the persons who have paid their tributes to Mr. Akintola Williams, CBE, OFR, CFR, in the last 24 hours have described his passing at the age of 104 as the end of an era. His last birthday was on the 9th of August, just about a month ago, and now, he's passed on to eternal glory. Now, but my favorite, tribute that anyone has placed to him was the one by Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar, who said simply that Akintola Williams lived a blessed life. So his has been, a remarkable life of blessing and grace. First, in many regards. One, first chartered accountant in Nigeria. First founder of the first indigenous chartered accountant firm in Nigeria, Akintola & Co. First, one of the founders of the Accountants Association of Nigeria, AAN, in 1960. One of the founding fathers of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria and his first president. And indeed, up until his death, the only surviving member of the team that signed the Memorandum of Understanding and Articles of Association of ICANN. Also, one of the founding fathers of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. He served also in in many public positions. He was a member of the Coca Commission of Inquiry in the Western region in the 60s. He was part of the panel that reviewed the report of the Udoji panel on salaries and wages. He was also a member of a panel, that did a review of tax laws in Lagos. He was founder and chairman of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, the premises of which has an arboretum named after him in recognition of his pioneer efforts. He was also the chairman and founder of the Musical Society of Nigeria for the promotion of the arts, of culture. And Muson stands there, as an enduring edifice in terms of his contributions. In other words, this was a man of polyvalent talent, multiple talents, who distinguished himself, not just in his accounting profession, but also in public service and also in extracurricular activities. And on top of all this, he enjoyed the gift of longevity. Now, his distinction is remarkable in one regard. A lot of people will say, oh, he's an icon, this and that. But he belongs to a generation that was cut from a different stone. Let me use that proverbial phrase. My encounters with that generation, one of the things I keep referring to, as a much younger journalist, going about giving speeches, giving lectures, reviewing books, doing MC work all over town, going about like a smallpox. I used to be almost everywhere. One of the things that used to frighten me was that if I saw on the program, if I saw Wole Soyinka, Gamaliel Onosode, Akintola Williams, I would start having palpitations. Because I would say, these old men, they don't ever go late for anything. They will be there. They will be very punctual. So they built their reputation on the basis of hard work and discipline. And truly, look, those people, it's a long list that I've mentioned. If they invite you to an event with them, if you are not careful, they will get there before you. In fact, they will naturally get there. They will never come late. So it was always an order to say, sorry, sir, sorry, sir, sorry, sir. And then one famous encounter, there was a time when I was doing Patito's Gang, with Professor Patitome. That was a television magazine program that was established by Professor Patu to me in year 2000. I was on it till 2011 when I went to Abuja for about 11 years. On one occasion, we were to interview Akintola Williams. Do you know that characteristically I got there late? The man was already seated in his office. At that time, he was in his 90s, I guess. You know, he was already seated, fully suited and all that. And he was saying, "Oh, Abati, why did you come late?" I said, "Well, I'm a habitual latecomer. I'm also learning." But in other words, the point I just want to make is about that generation, their discipline, their hard work. They don't make them like that anymore. These days now, the values that if you ask a young man what he wants to be, he says he wants to ride a Hummer Jeep. He wants to make money. Nobody is thinking, you know, about how to add value, how to, you know, set standards. You know, it's a major loss to the accounting profession. It will be greatly missed. But I hope, you know, people will learn from his legacy, not just in terms of the characterization that I've offered, but also in terms of living a life of values, you know, contributing, giving willingly to society, because he was one man who gave back through his activities in culture and the arts, and also in music, and even more importantly, in the profession, where he helped to groom generations of accountants and set standards for the profession. But as it is, that generation is passing away. So those who say, well, this is the end of an era, they may well be spot on.
The end of an era, may his soul rest in peace. It brings joy to know that he passed away peacefully yesterday. Chief Akintola Williams.